Tēnei te ara ka hura, tēnei te ara ka puaki, tēnei te ara ka tūwhera, huakina te ara. Te ara ka imua, te ara ka itua, te ara ka iwa hotakahia, te ara. Whaia kia marama ki te pai whenua, ki te pai rangi, ki te pai tawhiti, whaia kia tata. Tauarai a ngā marua i tūturakina, te kina turakina, te taupā turakina ka patua. Kaupapa kia eke panuku, kia eke tangaroa. Kia eke ki taupai nui, tēnei ka tupua, tā maua kia tīna tīna. Hui e, tai ki e. Good morning, Wells.
Tēnei re nā ki te toi o nā rangi.
This is the 7th Whakaaro Whakairo. I love this kind of environment. There's a lot of wānanga happens around the dinner table. A lot of kōrero, a lot of bonding.
So we'll probably take this one. They're ancient gifts from Papatūānuku, but then, you know, when they come home with me, they're like my babies. So that's inanga, that's tōtuweka, that's black pounamu, Hini nui te pō. This here's a kawa. Shit, might have to go ask a friend about that one. There's thousands of different types of pounamu, so you know I'm still learning, so I don't even know what it is. Beautiful's the name, Aotearoa. I always walk in the museums and kind of look at what my ancestors have made in the past and embody what they've done into my whakairo. I suppose like I'm blocking down at the moment, yeah, just trying to get the features of the face to pop out a little bit more.
Making things physically that feels like a really tangible way to connect to whakapapa. I use te koka as my main material. It's cabbage tree leaves that people usually know as something that gets jammed in the lawnmower. I really got into using te koka during the COVID lockdown at home and feeling quite introspective and learning about my whakapapa. Our whakapapa Māori hasn't really been acknowledged very much. When you're doing what your tupuna used to do, you can like imagine who your ancestors are. I've also learnt a lot from Sonia, the different like weaving techniques that you can use.
With these being so fine, best to tie them together like that when you're weaving, because they're so narrow too. Like this one here, look, that's too narrow. That's why I'll put that to sleep for a little while. It was in the early 80s. That was my first introduction to harakeke with our tutor, Emily Schuster. Moi mai te kuia. Just wove at home, and I'd start in the morning, I'm still there the next morning. But why I kept at it, because I just love the feel of the flax, I love the whole atmosphere, to be together with others.
Huge privilege to have Whaia Sonia there. Just looking at her work, and she's a really humble person. Just being around her, you can feel her āhua.
I've seen this one before.
Yeah, I done this last year. Yeah. So this year is doing the base, so I'm just going to put a high polish on there and just mount it. I was one of those kids who sat at the back of an English class, and instead of doing English stuff I was drawing murals on my folder. Failed school C art, drawing bowls of fruit and things like that. That wasn't really interesting for me. I'll have to mention a man by the name of Tutu Tukākau. Puti would teach me, especially a lot of kōrero. He told me Whakairo and art should not be left stagnant. It's all about succession. We have to live in the present, always acknowledge the past, and then pass it on to the next carver. They can add their bit and pass it on. It's one way of our whakapapa, our tātai kōrero can carry on. So it's really neat to see rangatahi here.
So what does te rito mean? It's a plant, yes. What is the meaning if you look into the meaning of it? Every carver will have their own different kōrero, but to me it relates to spring, new growth. When I picked up this mahi, settled my mind and and myself as a human. A lot of kids that had a bad background, or a bad lifestyle at home, they weren't very settled. The teachers call you naughty and destructive. To come in and do this job, you had to settle them first. They sit there and they don't move. If they come in really hypo and not listening, we had karakia and that. And when we started drawing, everyone just settled down and no one moved and they got into it. The teacher said time to go and they didn't want to go. And I marked there and it'll be near enough. And then join those lines up. Kahui? That's a big reason why I teach today, is because I was that kid too. Try that line, just try and follow near enough to there, eh?
When you first started doing Whakairo, what was the main sort of struggles that you dealt with and how did you overcome them?
This changed my life. I grew up here in Otaki and I chucked a pipe in my mouth at 12 years old. I smoked meth for 18 years. This changed my life. I have been 8 years now without a pipe in my mouth. I still live with it every day, but because I don't want to do it, this is my fight that I've got to fight. There's always hope, bro. You just can't lose it. Yeah. Hope is big, bro. And I got taught from a fella called John Mutu. He had learned off the old school fellas, Honi Taiapa, and Honi Taiapa used to say to him, I teach you, you teach too. John Mutu, he must have taught at least 5 or more. He done his job well, what his tutor told him. So it's something that's always stuck in my mind. Through here, your mouth drops down. Your mouth's flat, and then it drops really quick. I found a young fella, Hawani Hippolyte. He was one of those kids that come in and settled, but also I could see that he had a gift with his hands. I suppose I look at myself as more of just a bridge at the end of the day, from that older generation to the younger generation.
I've been a painter and a drawer for as long as I can remember. I've always had an active mind. So as a kid, I was quite full on, and my mum would put me into art school or have me doing art activities at home just to calm me down and shut me up. So it's always been a part of my process to sort of ground myself. I do a lot of tai-ao mahi. There's a definite sort of connection or synergy between being outside with the environment and re-establishing that sensation in my paintings. I'm fantasizing about what the whenua would look like if we hadn't messed with it so much. How in depth and rich would the ecosystems be? The idea of thought to reality, I don't choose it. Because a lot of my works are driven by dreams, to be honest. Somewhere I've been Aotearoa. It's interesting when you talk to people, some people really click and they really get some of your works, and it's like, you've been here too. I know.
Thought to reality, it's a simple few words, but often it's what life is made of. What we think often becomes our reality. I was raised in the 60s and the 70s, and people back then were producing a lot of things by hand. My father, he worked in the garden, he did concreting around the house. Like before I started sculpting, I did quite a bit of research and looking into ancient cultures. I started learning more about female atua, female goddess. So she's going to be goddess of tuna. Here in Aotearoa, you know, we've got Papatuanuku and we've got Hiniahu Oni. For me, every lesson I see in the garden, in the sea, humans ourselves, female energy creates life. There's ancestors, atua, all around us. It's just a matter of looking, seeing. How other people connect with them is incredible. This young woman came round to visit and she explained to me that she'd come to the house when we weren't at home. She'd sat on the step and she had just looked at the goddess that was sitting there in the garden. She had felt very suicidal. The experience she had sitting with that goddess in the quiet, you know, in the garden, had moved her from that space.
I had a mate that actually asked me, oh, can you make me something that's not mouldy? I was thinking, I was like, oh, I can't, there's nothing I can make that's not mouldy because I am mouldy. I said yes, and I came back and it was the mouldiest thing I could conjure up. It was like it was a mean like hook type thing, and it was like a tail of a fish as well. And he was like, oh, it's not what I really asked for. And he put it on and I gave him a week. I came back and talked to him and he said, oh, well, I can't take it off. I'm really connected to this piece, and I feel connected to your culture. The pounamu does things without words. You can witness it and feel it.
It's a really personalised thing creating. You're actually kind of laying all your cards out on the table, and it's like it's archiving what's happening to someone at that time. And also our mahi lives longer than we do. Whakairo is all about tupuna.
Waka koe waka e kau whakauta ana. Ngā whakawhiti o mātou kuia. A mahiti a pita hima.
To me, a symposium, or the highlights or the funny things, or what keeps you motivated during those darker times when you're by yourself?
To be a part of the symposium and to be a part of artists gathering in a supportive environment is fantastic.
I take any opportunity I can to come back and carve with Uncle Rob. He's the one that started me on the journey, so to be able to do it in front of him, that's sort of the other gem in it all, you know.
I need to acknowledge our partners, our kids. They're the ones who keep the fires burning. Without them, we can't function.
You start to find people a bit more akin to your way of looking at the world.
To be around like-minded people that support and show you what you can do. Yeah, it's very uplifting and powerful.
Sometimes it makes you feel like a bit of a weirdo, and then I realise I'm surrounded by them, but in the most like affectionate and wonderful way. Do you know what I mean?